I'm Betty Swan, and welcome to our show, Wisdom in the Night, where you get help for the tough decisions in your life. Tonight I have a great guest. She's an author, speaker, and business consultant to major corporations. Welcome, Lynette Lewis.
Thanks for having me, Betty. So happy to be with you tonight.
Yeah, it's just great. I'm very eager to learn about your life. I know you've done a lot of things. I want to know your background. Kind of tell me where you come from and to get to here.
Yes. Well, grew up in northern Indiana. Have one sister, wonderful parents, really. Grew up just in a very healthy home, a home of a lot of love, a lot of family, a lot of faith. Grew up loving God, and you know, it's funny when you grow up, you don't always realize what you've been given as a gift. And so at this age now, I'm very, very grateful for wonderful grandparents, parents, and all that. When I was 18, went off to college, and quite honestly thought that when I was in college that I would meet the man of my dreams. I always wanted to get married and have kids and just have a great kind of family life. And it wasn't my only dream, but was a big dream. And graduated 4 years later from college with a Bachelor of Science degree, but no bachelor for me.
The wrong bachelors.
Right, exactly. So had a degree actually in television and public relations. So over the next number of years, it was a kind of an interesting journey for me. I worked in the business community in Oklahoma for a while, and then went back to work at my alma mater in alumni and public relations. But as my personal life, as my professional life was beginning to really flourish and take off, and I was getting this career that I never really asked for or expected, my personal life a lot of times felt very much on hold. And a lot of my friends, pretty much all my friends, were getting married, having kids. My very best friend now has 10 children.
Oh my gosh.
So here I am with a career, but no husband and no children.
So what was that like? Did you ever get depressed about it?
Yes. Well, I think, I really believe that everybody has something that they wait for in life that they maybe thought would look different than it ends up looking. And for me, it was marriage and family. And so it was very hard a lot of times. I determined in my heart that I was not going to become entirely focused on that one thing I didn't have, because I believe that we're given many gifts in life. But oftentimes, and I think maybe women do this a little bit more than men, maybe not, we sort of take the telescope in on that one thing we don't have and focus on it and get obsessed with it. And for me, it would have been very easy to do that because I really wanted to get married and have kids. What I did not know is that I would actually wait till I was 42 years old to finally get married.
Well, you know, Lynette, here in New York City, that's not too unusual, is it?
No, it's not. In fact, I moved to New York when I was, I guess, about 38 years old, and I was refreshed by the fact that now I'm very much a go-getter and kind of a type A person, and now I find myself in New York City, and I'm sort of one of many, and it was really very validating for me. So suddenly I wasn't being told, you're too bold, you're too aggressive, you need to tone it down, no wonder you're not married because you're intimidating, those kind of things. So it was definitely a wonderful gift to come to New York. But I've been in New York now 17 years, and actually met my husband, the man of my dreams, here in New York. Yes, and so we got married. And on our wedding day, he gave me 4 teenage boys.
So just the wedding gift every woman wants.
Exactly. I always say 4 boys and no stretch marks. It was a good deal.
Cute.
Good deal. But so
let me ask you something before you go into that.
Sure.
Because there are a lot of women watching this show right now, they're probably wrapped up in a blanket, drinking some hot chocolate, and they're going, give me some answers. I'm waiting. I'm tired of waiting. I need wisdom. I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
Sure.
Why I can't meet guys here. What is your answer for that?
Well, waiting is a tough thing no matter what we're waiting for. I mean, there are, it's interesting, a lot of single women think that they're the ones suffering, and then I know a lot of women that are married and maybe going through a tough time in their marriage, and they're waiting for a breakthrough or waiting for something to change for their marriage. One of the things that really helped me, and it took me a lot of years to figure this out, was the way I say it is when one dream is on hold, go live another dream.
Did you do that?
I did that. And coming to New York City actually was really actively pursuing another dream that I had, because I'd had this dream of moving to New York for many years, wondered, is it me? Is it something I'm supposed to do? Do I just hope it's maybe a God idea and not just my idea? But moving to New York was a big, big injection of hope in my heart because I felt empowered. And I think what happens a lot of times when we're waiting, in particular when it's a woman waiting for a husband or marriage, we tend to think we have to sort of put ourselves on hold until that answer comes, or we figure out what that's going to look like. And I
feel like you're kind of losing out, even if you're thinking something else to occupy yourself. You still feel inside yourself, I'm losing out. I'm really losing out. But you're not. That's what you're saying.
In fact, I call it the myth of missing out. That feeling that I'm missing out on something because it doesn't look the way I thought it would look. And what I discovered, Betty, is that while I was not the one married and wasn't the one having children, I was getting the privilege, and now I wouldn't trade this for anything in the world, is I was getting the privilege to pursue other dreams that it would have been just as easy for my best friend who had the 10 kids to think she was missing out because she was home changing diapers and doing all that and not getting to do some of the things I was. So my key, and really the lesson I learned through those years, was celebrate your season.
Oh, wow, that's a great way. That should be a book.
Well, you're not the first person to tell me that, and I'm passionate about it because this is the way I look at it. Every season has its gifts. If you live in the United States, July 4th, it's 4th of July. We have our traditions, right? Fireworks, barbecues, all kinds of hamburgers, French fries. But when the holidays roll around, we don't have fireworks and lemonade and all that. We have other traditions. And if one of my sons was sitting around the Christmas tree complaining that we didn't have lemonade and fireworks, you know what I'd say to him? It's not the season.
Right.
Well, life is just like that too, Betty. This may not be the season for whoever's watching to be married and having children, but you're getting another season. What is it? If you could look back on this season that you're in right now, and when you leave it, look back and say, I milked it for everything I could possibly get out of that season, the unique gifts that came with it, what would that look like? And then get in there, dive in with all your heart, and just celebrate your season. Because here's what happens. The kind of man that you want to be married to, the kind of partner you want for life, is going to want someone who's fully alive, not sitting around feeling cheated.
Right, or sitting around and then meets him and pressures him.
Right. Because here's what happens. Marriage multiplies the state it finds you in.
Wow,
So
that's
if
a good... Now, wait a minute, say that again. This is a show about wisdom, and that is powerful.
One of my dear friends told me this, and I've repeated it myself many times. Marriage multiplies the state it finds you in. So if you are happy and fulfilled, then you're going to be more happy and fulfilled because now you've got a partner to do it with. But if you're discouraged, depressed, frustrated, anxious, then a husband, I don't care how great and wonderful he is, he's just going to maximize that feeling because now you're going to have two people to take care of and not just yourself.
And you're still having the thought process that's negative.
That's right. That way you train your mind. And I really believe that over the course of time, and I did not do it perfect every step of the way, I've cried hundreds of tears over loneliness and Valentine's Days where I got nothing and feeling left out and left behind and like I was missing out. I cried many, many tears. But as I look back, when I started understanding that the season I was in was a gift and not a curse, then it really shifted everything for me.
So describe some of those seasons. What were they? Give me an example.
So for instance, one season that I had in my career was a season where I had gone to work in a job and was told that I would be making a certain salary, and in about a year and a half I'd be promoted to another position. Now I took a little bit of a salary cut to take this job, but I thought, well, I can deal with it for a year and a half. By the time the promotion comes, no big deal. Well, right before the promotion came, the woman who hired me, who had made the promise, she'd been at this company for years, she quits. Well, now the person that was replacing her did not care what promises had been made to me. And it was 7 or 8 years later before any of those promises came to pass. Now, there were many, many moments where I was complaining and griping and thought, I'm leaving this company. They don't deserve me. But I knew in my heart, if I jumped ship, that I would be cheating not only the organization out of what I really felt assigned to do, but cheating myself out of lessons, learning, credibility, the things that I feel God really wanted me to have through that job.
And wanted to develop in you.
And wanted to
develop.
develop.
What I'm hearing you say then, that is a piece of wisdom for somebody watching, is you're not even talking to me right now about being married, going on year after year after year, not married, not married, not married. You're saying you got occupied with something that there were things you learned, attributes that were developed in you that needed to be developed in you, right?
I get to do certain things in my life that had I not endured those years and really maximized those years for my professional development, I wouldn't get to do so much of what I do now. And maybe I'd be married and have kids like I do now, but I would have missed out on all these other gifts. You know, gifts are an interesting thing. It struck me one day that many gifts we receive are not gifts we would choose ourselves. Do you ever have that where someone will give you a present for your birthday maybe and you'll act like, oh, this is so nice, but in your mind you're thinking, why would they give me this, right? You know, what are they thinking? And I'll never forget when a friend of mine gave me this particular face cream, and I remember thinking, oh, I'm never going to use it. Do you know I used it, tried it, used it, and it became my favorite cream. Well, life has become that way in so many areas for me, including my professional life. A career I would have never chosen but would not trade. People I've met, you know, some jobs we get, maybe people that are watching tonight have a job that they don't really like, and they wonder, well, how does this job connect to my vision or what I feel like I'm really supposed to do? But sometimes, and I've been working 30 years now, sometimes the job isn't about the job, it's about the people. Maybe God wants you to meet certain people that you're not going to need for another 15 years, but lo and behold, they come out of the woodwork 15 years later, and they are your specific connection that you need for the job that you've got at that point. So the job wasn't about the job, it was about the people. That's why every job I've ever had, I try to make it about the people, how I treat them, how I invite them into my life, how I always try to think, what is it going to be like on my last day of work at this job? What's every person around that table if they take me out for a lunch or say goodbye at a party or wave goodbye simply? What are they going to say about me? Because that will determine how successful I was at that job. Not the job I did, but the impact I made on the people.
And that is really good. And so now you got married. How did you meet your husband, and do you have children?
Yes, so we got married, about 12 years ago now. We met at church, believe it or not. I believe, and I had gotten this advice, very wise advice from friends, that is, if you really want to meet the right person, go to the places, be around the people, and be in those circles of influence where your type of person is going to be. And for me,
now that is a great piece of wisdom.
Yeah.
So, like, all right, take that for somebody watching. Would it be like if you're a political type person, you would go where there were political things going on?
Yes.
If you were athletic,
yeah,
you would go where athletic type things are going on.
Yes.
All right.
So the question would really be, if people talk about going to the bar on a Friday night or Saturday night, stop and think, is the kind of person you want to marry really going to be at a bar on a Friday night and Saturday night? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that at some level, but where do they spend most of their time? Where else are they hanging out? Maybe they're in an advertising club. Maybe they're in a marathon runners club. Maybe they're in a host of other things. Go and do those activities. And for me, church and faith and serving God and loving God, very, very important to me. And so, sure enough, I met my husband at church. Why? Because that church I was going to and still go to attracts those kind of men, and that was very important to me. No surprise that he's passionate about God. He wants to make faith a big part of our family. Well, I was at the right place to meet that kind of a guy. The other piece of advice I would give is that 80% of people meet their spouse through mutual friends. So do you have the right kind of friends? Do you have friends and people in your life who know people who you would belong with, who you'd want to do life with? Because like kinds hang around. Right now, I'm married, but I have a lot of single girlfriends, and they're like me. They are going for the things I'm going for. We have a lot in common. If a gentleman's looking for a woman that's similar to me, then he ought to be my friend, because I'd be happy to introduce him to my girlfriend.
To your friends.
Yes.
Right.
It's practical.
Well, yes.
But it makes sense. It's wisdom.
Yes, I get that. Now, how did you actually meet him?
So we were both going to the church at the same time. He actually had a real tough situation in his first marriage. He was divorced, had 4 children, a very tough thing. 30% of every marriage in America right now forms a blended family. So many people, if not more than that,
I think it was even more.
Are forming second marriages, third marriages. And so it's a very common thing. My husband is a pastor, and it's not a glamorous thing for a pastor to go through a divorce and have to start over. But he was going through a rebuilding time. And we met. We really became friends. I mean, friendship is the basis of every great marriage. Really it is. Friendship carries you through a lot of things. You want that attraction. You want that chemistry.
You want to be friends almost before you fall in love, right?
Yeah.
Because love can come or go, even in a marriage. I don't mean you lose the love. You just can ebb and flow.
The feeling especially.
But if you have a friendship, that's there always.
It's always there. It carries you through. You want to like the person. You want to enjoy being with them, even if you're just in the same room reading a book, watching
Now, did
TV.
you like his children?
I did. I've loved the boys from the day I married him. And for me, I, in my heart, even though not legally, adopted them fully on the day that we got married.
In your heart?
In my heart. I mean,
I
adopted
needed
them.
that.
They
They
did.
needed that.
And I get along great with their mom. We're friends. We're very committed.
The ex-wife.
Yes.
You get along with it. That's smart because it makes it easier on the boys.
Yes, I was thinking about her today and just how thankful I am that we've had that friendship and that we've always made it about the children. We're gonna work to be friends and get along. It doesn't mean that we hang out all the time or anything like that, but we're friendly, we care, we respect each other. I've never tried to step in and take her place. I honor her as their mother because she's their mother, but she has been gracious and let me into their lives. And we've really worked, I think, a lot as a whole group of us to make it good for the kids.
Well, you're a smart woman because not very many women will do that. But the ones I know that have done it have had the same thing happen. Peace, no enmity between the ex, which makes it really hard on the children.
The children pay the price for that.
Now, do you have other children? Could you have children? Did you have children?
Interesting story, interesting journey. I was married at 42, so right away wanted to try to have my own child. And we had the 4 boys, but I wanted a little girl. And been praying about this for years, and so I got pregnant at 45, but had a miscarriage at 2 months. It was heartbreaking.
Yes, I've had them. I know.
So we went into a couple years of fertility treatments and surgeries and all kinds of things to try to get pregnant. And it never happened again. It really didn't. And I had this desire. My heart really got even a more stirred desire through those years of fertility treatments to have twin girls. And wanted that very much. Even wrote in my journal one year, I said, I will have twin baby girls. They'll be named Victoria Joy and Isabella Grace. I got the names in my heart, and
Now, how old were you when that happened?
I was, I'd say I was about 47, 48.
Okay, all right, keep going.
And so I wrote that down. I shared it with my husband and committed it to prayer. I shared it with a couple girlfriends, too. I have a group of women in my life, always, and various ones come and go through seasons of life, but they're always women I trust with my deepest heart's desires. You know, you can have the greatest marriage, greatest relationship, but women need women.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think there's this myth in our culture that the man is going to be the end-all, be-all, and guys aren't made for that. They're not up for that kind of pressure. And so I've always had some great girlfriends that I trust. And so I had a circle of women that I really trusted that prayed with me about this dream of having twin girls. And even so much so that one year we were having a team meeting. We were working on some projects together, and 2 of them brought me baby gifts at the team meeting. Now, this was when I had sort of moved on from the dream and hadn't been talking about it for a while. And one of them brought me a gift, and she said, I know you haven't mentioned this in a while, Lynette, but I want you to know I'm still standing for your dream. And she handed me a Christmas baby bib. Now, this was not at Christmas time. And immediately when she hands me this gift, another woman in the circle starts screaming, and she says, I can't believe this. I brought you a gift, too. Well, she pulls out of her bag 2 baby sweaters and winter hats, pink. Then the first woman screams again and says, well, I can't believe it because I actually bought you 2 Christmas bibs, but I didn't have the guts to give you both of them.
Oh, my goodness.
So all the women in the circle, there's about 12 of us, they start just getting so excited, and they said, Lynette, we're just going to call this your by faith baby shower. And they just prayed with me, and we were all so excited. Well, days, months, years went on, and no sign of my dream, Betty.
Kind of like marriage. Days, months went on, and no marriage.
Boy, and
now babies.
And no babies. And so about 3 years ago now, in October, I had said to my husband, you know, I'm really struggling with what have I missed? How could I have a dream so strong and really believe God gave me that dream, and yet no sign? And now I'm 50, and I'm not going to have another baby naturally. I mean, what's wrong with me that I thought this? And he just very sweetly said, I don't think it's over yet. Well, sure enough, Christmas time was coming around, and we got a call from a young mother who was pregnant with twin girls.
Now, did she call you, or did you have an adoption agency?
No,
What?
we actually had a mutual friend who knew I wanted twins, even though I hadn't talked about it in a long time. And she was working with this young woman to put her baby up for adoption, and found out it was twin girls. She called me and she said, "Do you think you're interested, Lynette?" That my friend did. And I honestly wondered if my husband would even be up for it. We were, now in 50s.
So much time had passed.
Yeah, so much time had passed. And my sweet husband said, let's go ahead and just get our paperwork updated for adoption. And we did. And I honestly, Betty, I thought, she's never going to pick us. She looks at our family picture. My sons are grown. I'm way past the age of being a mom. She's not going to pick me. And I have to believe that there are a lot of people watching your show, watching us tonight, right now. They think they've missed it. I mean, it makes me cry because I know what that feels like.
Why don't you look in the camera and talk to those people right now?
Maybe you're watching me tonight and you're thinking, I know what that feels like, to have my dream feel completely dead. Maybe it's your health. Maybe you're believing for one of your children to come back into a relationship with you. Maybe your marriage is on the rocks. Maybe your job's horrible, or your finances are a mess. Whatever it is that you're dreaming of. When I had that dream that wouldn't let go to have twin baby girls, I actually thought, I'm crazy. I'm crazy for even continuing to believe. But that young woman did pick us. She called us on Christmas Eve and she said, I want you to be the parents of these twin baby girls. Can you be ready in 3 weeks because they're going to be due? And we said, sure, we'll be ready. Would you believe the very next morning, on Christmas morning, those babies were born? Victoria Joy and Isabella Grace came into my life.
Joy and grace, they're Christian words.
Joy and grace, and thank goodness I had the Christmas bibs. And we have the cutest baby picture of those two little darlings wearing those Christmas bibs. And I'm here to tell you that it is never too late for your dream. You're not too old. You haven't missed it. I'm pushing my stroller down the streets of New York City, and I know people look at me and think, oh, she must be the grandmother. But I don't care, because my dream came from God, and He brought it right on time. Right on time. We feel like we're so behind. How can it ever happen? I'm telling you, God's timing is perfect.
And did you keep your heart right toward God this whole time, even about the babies? Because did you say you didn't love me, you didn't take care of me, or did you say, no, God, you've told me, and I'm not letting go?
I had my moments where I wondered if I was crazy. I think I struggled more with, why can't I hear God? Why can't I? Maybe I'm just want too much. People always tell you want too much. You dream too big.
And you can think that.
Yes. But I have learned, and I think the older you get, the more you realize this, that when something is a no, when the door closes, when I didn't get a promotion at work, or just something didn't go the way I thought, in hindsight, I always look back and I'm so grateful, because it wasn't either God's timing, it wasn't the plan, it wasn't the person. Mm-hmm. Goodness, before I met my wonderful husband, there were a couple guys I knew they were supposed to be my husband, right? And didn't work out for whatever reason. Well, now I'm so glad. They were great guys, but they weren't the one for me. They weren't right. It wasn't God's best.
And they might have been willing to be the father of twin girls, and they were 50. I guess he was over 50, was he?
I was 52. My husband was 54 when we got the girls.
Wow.
I mean, it's true. Very few men would agree to do that. He had already raised 4 sons, and we were starting for the first time to be empty nesters. And now our lives have totally changed again.
So what's it like now that you're like young parents?
Yeah.
But not young. What's that like?
It's a challenge. I mean, parenting young children is hard. Mm-hmm. Let's be real. There are people watching us who are working 2 and 3 jobs just to put food on the table and just to take care of single moms. It's hard. Mm-hmm. But it's a joy. Again, I'm about celebrating the season. And when I get exhausted, there are mornings when I just do not want to get up and take care of demanding little kids. Mm-hmm. But I think, oh, treasure these moments, because they go like that.
Oh, yeah.
They just
and they're
fly
gone.
by.
And they're gone out of the home.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm celebrating my season. I'm enjoying every minute of it, milking it, just grateful. You know, I don't know why, for me, God gave me motherhood at this stage in my life, but boy, I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's just
Well, now,
been great.
do you plan on telling the girls they were adopted?
Oh, yes, yes.
Have you got a method for doing that?
We have talked we have a lot of friends who've adopted children, and one of the things I love about the Bible is it's relevant to every area of our lives. And there are story after story after story in the Bible about adopted children. In fact, God says that we've been adopted as His children. And so we will share it with them in those contexts and really explain to them that God handpicked you for our family.
Well, let me ask you something then. This thing about being adopted into God. So a lot of people think we're all God's children. We're all God's children. Is that true?
Well, certainly God loves all of us. I mean, we're all His children by nature. I mean, humankind is birthed out of the likeness of God. It says God made man and woman in His image. But it's kind of like when you have children. They may be your children, but if they don't treat you like a parent, they don't honor you as their father and mother, they don't want a relationship with you, they don't come back and desire to listen to you and to obey you and to follow you, then it's hard to have a relationship with that child, right? It's a two-way street. And the Bible is very clear on us receiving the inheritance of sonship, receiving what God did for us on the cross through Jesus Christ, His Son, and receiving that, accepting that atonement for our sins. That's what truly gives us the right to be true sons and daughters of God. So there is a step that we each have to take in receiving that gift of sonship and that gift of being a daughter of God. So it's not just a gift without response. There has to be a response in order to really walk with God.
How old were you when you did that?
Goodness, I've loved the Lord ever since I can remember, but I would say probably by about 7 and 8 years old, it became very, very real to me.
So I want to bring that out. That's interesting because anybody would think if you follow the Lord at that age, then everything should have fallen into place much earlier, much quicker, much sooner, all of that. And yet you're saying, no, it didn't, but it's still good.
Yes, yes.
Wonderful. Well, folks, I want to tell you something. There is a saying called God's delays are not God's denials. And maybe you need to hear that tonight. You've heard this wonderful story of wait, 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 wait. And then look what happened. But what did you learn from Lynette? She said, occupy your mind with something else while you're waiting. Good. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. It wasn't an accident that you turned on the TV. And I hope you receive some wisdom and that you have a great rest of the night, whether you're going to sleep or going to work. I'll see you next time. Bye.